black man in America, but I'm still very privileged. I walk down the street and every day I see homeless people, I see hungry people, I see disabled people, I see mentally ill people. I have electricity, I have running water, I have a smartphone. There are like 10 TVs in this house. There are 2 TVs in this room that nobody ever uses. So it would be super obnoxious for me to pretend like I have some kind of hard life. But racism is a thing, and racism is literally killing people. And we're not necessarily talking about KKK style hate crimes. That happens, but really what we mean are these ingrained attitudes. We're talking about an inherent mistrust and a presumption of guilt. We're talking about Philando Castile being told by a police officer to retrieve his driver's license and being shot when he tries to do it, because it's presumed that instead of following the officer's order, he was reaching for his gun. We're talking about Tamir Rice being shot on sight because it's presumed that instead of a kid playing with a toy gun, he's a violent criminal. Let me be straight with you. When I hear story after story after story of innocent black people being killed by the police, it's literally unironically scary. It makes me not want to leave my house. It doesn't really matter how much privilege I have if I can look at a cop the wrong way and next thing you know, I'm out the game. And look, I know some of you are going to deny this issue and some of you are going to claim that racism doesn't exist, but I'm just not talking to those people in this video. This is just bigger than that nonsense right now. And I know it can be hard to internalize for white people. It's hard to internalize for me. It doesn't make any sense. What's clear is that there's a problem, and it's a problem that we need to fix. And it's a problem that we've done a pretty bad job of addressing. Think about Amadou Diallo, who is an unarmed African immigrant who was gunned down by the police in 1999. That was almost 20 years ago, and we've made basically zero headway on this issue since then. So I had someone ask me, what can I as a white person do to help? And I had to think about it because I'm not even sure what to do myself. Nothing we do really is going to make those bullets go back inside of those guns. But what we can do is have a conversation about racism and do our best to try and reverse these ingrained stereotypes and prejudice. White people are in a pretty interesting position. They don't experience racism in the same way, so they can't internalize it in the same way. But the privilege that white people have puts them in a unique position to say things and be more likely to have them taken seriously. So we'll start with that. Number 1, listen. Social justice groups often say things like, it's not my job to educate you. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it would be hard for white people to really understand what's going on without someone telling them. White people have a specific perspective that's going to have blind spots that need to be filled in with education. But if you're paying attention, there's lots of people saying lots of shit about the black experience, and you need to listen to it. And when people share their stories with you, you need to take it seriously. Number 2, inform yourself. Now, this is just a follow-up of number 1. Once you hear those stories, now it's on you to go and find information yourself. I think a lot of white people have good intentions, but they're afraid of being insensitive or saying the wrong thing. Well, the way you remedy that is by knowing what the fuck you're talking about. Don't use intuition. Don't use what you think is common sense. Don't use personal anecdotes. It's not the same. Find real facts and real statistics and real stories. Talk to real black people. Read books and articles written by real black people. Number 3, inform others, particularly other white people. Now, I'm not saying you should go around being annoying and waving your finger at people, but when you find yourself involved in discussions of race, don't be timid. Speak the truth. Another thing white people can do, which you don't see very often, is organize. I mean, yeah, you can go to the black people meetings, you can join the black organizations, but why not start your own organization? Plan your own meeting. Because I can't tell you exactly step by step the best way to inform your community, but that's a thing that you and your peers can figure out together. Number 4, support the right people. Race issues may not be the first thing on a white person's mind when they're deciding who to vote for or who to donate to or who to hire, but these are things that matter, and these are things that affect the discourse. I suggest you give your support to people that are going to improve the situation. And keep in mind, I'm not saying only support black people. There are people of all backgrounds with progressive ideas about these issues. Number 5, understand your role. While the participation and support of white people is useful if not essential, ultimately you still have to understand that this is a struggle of people of color. You're probably not gonna lead a million-man march. No one's gonna give you an award for teaching your friends not to be racist. White people will never be able to speak for black people. Like, a lot of white people have this guilt and are motivated by their guilt, but it's not about guilt. It's not about you. It's about people fucking dying. Number 6, refuse to tolerate racism. We just have to get to a point where racism is just unacceptable in all cases. And racism is not always direct or overt. And it's important to learn how to identify when it's occurring. Even something as simple as someone being more polite or more accommodating to you just because you're white. When things like that happen, call it out and let people know that it's not okay. Understand that as a white person, sometimes you can speak in situations where it would be dangerous or impossible for a non-white person to do it. And like anything else, it's complicated. There are lots of things we can can talk about. We can talk about gun rights, we can talk about police, but those are things for another video. I've said this before, but I don't think most of the problems in society are due to just evil people walking around. It's just centuries of inequality that has resulted in these inherent, ingrained, stereotypical attitudes towards certain groups of people. And it's gonna take bold, assertive action to reverse those trends. And white people are probably gonna have to help.